Well, we've just got another great day planned for you today, and I just had the pleasure of talking with our keynote speaker, who's super sweet, and really what she said to me is she felt the culture of care being around us yesterday, and I think that means a lot. It says a lot about us and who we are, not only as a brand, but as a family, right? All right, so Rashmi Airan is a former attorney and Wall Street investment banker, a serial entrepreneur, law school professor, professionally trained vocalist. That's impressive, I gotta tell you. And a globally recognized transformation expert. She is a mother. Okay, she is a mother of 2 college kids and lives in Miami, Florida, a true powerhouse, and a recognizer of our caring culture. So let's give her a warm welcome. Miss Rashmi Airan.
This is my fight song. Take back my life song. Prove I'm alright song. My power's turned off. Starting right now, be strong.
I want to start with the story about my grandfather, Banarsi Das Saraf, who was a freedom fighter against the British during the revolution. And of course, India gains independence, but as it turns out, on the day that my father was born, my Dadaji, my grandfather, was sitting in jail during the Gandhi movement. So I grew up with stories about my grandfather. He was this tenacious survivor who always fought for what he believed was the right thing to do. Of course, India gains independence. My dad grows up in total uncertainty, because even though there was an independence, there was chaos, the economy's in turmoil, and our family business, we were jewelers, was struggling. And from one day to the next, my dad didn't know if they would make it. Eventually, he gets this dream. He's going to come to America to achieve the dream. I think many of you can relate to that, right? So he marries my mom and comes, and they believe that with this simple idea, if they work hard enough and get the best education, they can succeed in America. So they come with $8 in their pocket, and they do all the things. They get their master's degrees and their PhD degrees, eventually law degrees. And along the way, I'm born, Rashmi, which, as many of you know, is the rays of the morning sun. In other words, the dawn of a new day. And I'm born into this legacy of courage, of justice, of continuing to fight even when things are hard, and to try new things, no matter the uncertainty, no matter the fear. But our entire family, both on my mom's side and on my dad's side, believe that we in America now could do it all. And of course, success meant being really educated and being financially successful, right? And so my entire childhood, I believed that all of my self-worth, all of my value, and why people loved me was because I had to be successful. And the more I achieved, the more people loved me. And this was not that somebody told me this. This was like a self-imposed belief I put on myself. Can any of you relate to that? Yeah? So when I'm 10, I had been arguing with my dad in the car, like this is what I did. I would find anything to argue with my dad about. So we're in the car, my dad turns to me and says, "You know, you like to argue so much, you should be a lawyer one day. You're smart, you're confident, and then you can argue with whoever you want." So I was like, yeah, all right, I'm gonna be a lawyer. And let me tell you what, from that day forward, success meant I was gonna be the best lawyer I could be. Okay, but to get there, I had to go to the best schools, win all the awards, get all the degrees, and make a lot of money. And if I just follow this plan, it'll work for me, right? So I'm in high school. My parents go from $8 to living in this house on the ocean in Miami, arguably the most premier neighborhood in Miami, called Gables Estates. In March of my senior year in high school, the market collapses. My parents were in real estate. And they went from having nothing to making it to losing it. They had to file bankruptcy. We lost this home to foreclosure. And we ended up in this small rental home a block from my high school. Let me tell you, we figured out who our friends were really fast. And I watched my parents carry like everything that they had into this small house. And yeah, we cried a lot. My dad would hide in the bathroom to cry. But my parents never lost hope. They honored me and my two sisters with the truth, which was, no matter what, we can rise through it. We can get past this. And they surrounded our family with love and faith and hope. But I'm a senior in high school, and I decide, if I just do all the right things and I follow this plan, I can avoid this struggle that I have watched my parents and I know my grandparents went through. Like, I'm never going to go through that, right? Boy, was I wrong. I'll tell you guys what happened in a bit. So I have drawn from my grandparents' experience, my parents' experience, and my own 25-year experience and career in law and banking to create the Rise Through It framework. And my job here today is to help you think and feel differently. And we're going to dig in after I give this little mini keynote. But what I know for sure is that I thought I could avoid the struggle. But isn't it the universal truth that we will all struggle? Right? As entrepreneurs, every one of you is facing struggle every day. Whether it's at home, whether it's at work, whether it's like, am I going to achieve the revenue growth I want, right? We are all struggling, and it could be medical, legal, financial, marital. We all go through something. So it's not a matter of if, it's when. So when we go through those moments of fear, uncertainty, change, disruption, how do we get through them? And today I want to walk you through this three-part process: embrace, let go, dare. But let's go back to what happens. I eventually go to UNC Chapel Hill, graduate with highest honors. I went on to Wall Street and worked at Morgan Stanley. And then I went on to Columbia Law School. Also, won all the awards. So I was on the path. By all accounts, I've got this leadership thing figured out, and I'm successful. I have achieved the love that I wanted. I get married to a firefighter. I have these two beautiful children. But now I have my own little real estate title company, and I am moving like at light speed, meaning I am going to every possible networking event. I'm going to every possible journey that I can go onto into meeting people. I'm trying to sell my services at the gym. I never got to dinner. I start having marital problems. I was moving at the fast pace of life that we all get caught up in, right? Does this sound familiar? We're just moving around the race course of life so fast that I don't even remember when this picture was taken, guys. Because I thought that if I just keep working, I can get to that dream. And so I was forgetting that I was putting all this pressure on myself, and everything I was working so hard to get to, I wasn't even enjoying, because I was just stuck in this race. And the thing is when we have pressure, we end up in this self-imposed prison with glass walls that we don't even realize are there. And it looks like overwhelm, anxiety, fear, uncertainty, status quo, right? So the problem is when you have pressure, you also have blind spots. So it's in this context that when my kids are 2 and 3, I decide I'm going to take the opportunity to meet this real estate developer that somebody introduced me to. And I'm not going to go into all the details today, but basically within 2 weeks, I had to get this client. I decide if I'm going to get this one big client, that means volume business, financial stability, which means more time with my kids. Maybe I can save my marriage. Maybe I can get home for dinner with my kids. This guy is going to be the answer to my problems, and I won't have to have the struggle, right? But there's always blind spots when there's pressure. right? Blind spots for some of you looks like prioritizing enrollment maybe over taking care of the kids in a certain way, or resistance to change, employee burnout and turnover, right? There's so many things that you as franchise owners in the childhood space that could be a blind spot. So I had all these blind spots. Like my blind spot was, I'm just gonna get this client. I'm not gonna pay attention to all these other things, so I wasn't asking him questions. I wasn't doing my due diligence. And like, what are lawyers supposed to do? Due diligence. Within 2 weeks, I had my first closing request, and it was like a steamroll plowed through, and I didn't take the time, nor did I make the time to ask for help. And guys, by the way, I'm surrounded by attorneys. My parents are attorneys now. Most of my friends are attorneys. Like, I could have gone to any number of people and asked for a second opinion to ask for help, but I didn't. Because I was like, I just got to get this client. So I do a bunch of closings for him. And sometimes, when you have pressure and blind spots, you can make bad decisions. You can make decisions that aren't in alignment with your core values. Right? Lightbridge has these set of core values, children, which I love, right? In addition to the culture of care. But when you have pressure, when you have blind spots, you might make a decision that is not in alignment with these values, right? It's not like we're constantly thinking about them. They're not looking at us in the face every time. And pressure exposes blind spots. And blind spots breed bad decisions. I ended up making some bad decisions. And I didn't know it at the time because I just wanted the client and I wanted to work with him. So eventually, the FBI visits me 4 years after I meet the developer. Has anybody been visited by the FBI? It's super freaking scary. Like, and I know that I'm supposed to know this stuff, but like when the FBI knocked on my door, I didn't know that I could say to them, hey, can I take a card and I'll call you when I have an attorney with me? And they're like counting on the fact that I'm not gonna have an attorney with me. So guess what I did? I brought them into my office, we sat at a circular table, and they grilled me for 4 hours. They asked me questions. They showed me documents and emails and attachments and pictures, and I'm like answering these questions, yes, no, as if I actually remember what happened 4 years earlier. Nobody has that kind of memory, right? They leave, 2 years go by, I get a grand jury subpoena. Now, I'm still operating under this pretense that I haven't done anything wrong because all my files have already passed audit. It's 6 years later. I don't even do transactional work anymore. Dad and I started our own litigation practice, and I have this pleasure of working with my dad now. Within 3 months, my attorney calls me into his office and says, you're a target. Now, I didn't even know what that meant. Like, I'm not a criminal lawyer. I didn't know what that meant. Once he explained it to me, I was shaking uncontrollably. Because this was my whole life. This was everything I had worked so hard for, and all I'm thinking about is, oh my God, I have disgraced my parents. I have disgraced my community. I sit on a lot of boards in Miami. How will I ever come back from this? So eventually I get indicted for 1 count of conspiracy to commit bank fraud and 24 counts of bank fraud. And they take 24 of the closings out of the 200, attach it to the complaint, and I get indicted. And of course I plead not guilty at the beginning because I'm like, I didn't do anything wrong. I went through the discovery and I was so convinced that I'm super smart and I'm gonna prove that I'm innocent. Like, I'm gonna find that smoking gun. There were 200,000 pages of documents and 15,000 emails. I mean, imagine, this is all I did every day because I had to prove my innocence. I had to show them I didn't do anything. After I got indicted, we decided we would call our entire Indian community, my parents are leaders in our community in Miami, to tell them. So basically 50 of my aunties and uncles come over. You guys know, they're all aunties and uncles. They all come over. Now, before they all come, I am so sure that all of these aunties and uncles only love me for my achievements because I've made them proud. And that as soon as we tell them, they're all going to leave. And I have disgraced my parents, right? They're going to shun us. So everybody comes. Of course, we feed them samosas and really good food. And then my dad is standing in the corner. I'm sitting on a couch. My mom's here. One of my uncles is here. And we tell them that I've been indicted. And my dad's crying. My mom is here. She's hard as nails. She doesn't cry. And this uncle here says, Beti, daughter, one day you'll realize this is not happening to you. It's happening for you. Right? And I didn't get it at the time. I then went, and eventually my attorney told me, he brought my parents in, and he said, Rashmi, I get it. I've known this guy 20 years, by the way. He's like a friend. And he said, Rashmi, if you go to trial, this is what's going to happen. The government's going to stand up and show their case and evidence. We're going to stand up and show our defense, and then they're going to stand up and rebut. And I'm telling you right now, if you go to trial, you're going to lose. And you're looking at 20 years. Like, you will miss your kid's whole life. And I get it. You didn't walk into this planning a crime. But here's the thing. As a leader, as a business owner, and as an attorney, you had a fiduciary duty to do more, to ask the questions you didn't ask. And not doing something is still doing something wrong. I'm going to say it again. Not doing something is still doing something wrong. Every one of you in your franchises has things happening that maybe you're ignoring. It's just so much easier to avoid it. Maybe not ask the family that you can see something's not right and you can be a support to them. So I had no other choice but to embrace what I was going through. Right? Like, it's happening. I can't get away from it. And it's so much easier sometimes for us to just like avoid it, pretend like it's not happening. But the truth is that when we go through these moments, we have to embrace it and own it, acknowledge the truth, accept it, and then feel the pain. Like actually in your bones to your core. Because let me tell you how much I cried. Right? Like, I had to embrace it. Sorry, this slide was supposed to be before, but it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. And then what I did was I ended up calling about 200 people in my life. Now, I didn't know if the U.S. Attorney's Office was going to issue a press release. I didn't know if there was going to be a newspaper article, and I certainly did not want people to gossip about it. So I called, because I'm an anal, I made a spreadsheet first, because this is what we do. I made a checklist. And I was like, okay, I got control of this. I can make the spreadsheet. And then I kept like, I got to put in phone numbers. Eventually, I had to call these people. And I was scared because, again, I was convinced that as soon as I called and told people what I had done, they were going to hang up on me. So I called like my family, my friends from elementary school, high school, college, my Morgan Stanley days, my law school days, my kids' friends' parents, my kids' teachers. When I tell you that I took accountability and I called every person that I knew that had any inkling or idea of my history or character, 182 people wrote letters of support to the judge for me. And it was like I got eulogized before I died. And let me tell you what, I had spent my whole life thinking that people loved me for my achievement and for my success. And what I learned is that people are very forgiving of our humanity if we give them the chance to love on us, to understand who we are as human beings, because we are all flawed human beings, yes? One of my friends said, you stood naked and exposed for the entire world to judge you, and we did. And we got to see ourselves in you. And we learned by watching you. We can now teach our kids that. So I'm sure none of you have been in a courtroom like this, right? So a federal courtroom is scary, it's big, it's long, very high ceilings. So on the day of my sentencing, June 2015, all those 182 people flew in from New York, Houston, Philadelphia, drove from Charlotte, just to be there to show me their support and love. And then a judge sentenced me to a year and a day in prison. And yes, I was handcuffed and shackled with a waist chain. Like, I am the last person that anybody thought this would happen to. Right? But we don't all fit molds. Each of the kids that you work with, they all have their own stories and journeys. And when this happened to me, I collapsed on the ground and I was hysterical crying. And it's not because I was scared for me. Who was I scared for? Exactly. Because what's going to happen to my kids? How will they grow through this? Now, because my parents had been really honest with me back in the 80s when they went through hard times, I had a role model. And I knew that no matter how hard this is for me, it's as hard as it is for my kids, but they're going to learn something from it. And so I let go and I told them. And the thing is that we are all wrought with limiting beliefs, right? My limiting beliefs were stuck in ego. Like, what are people going to say? What happens to my reputation? Ego is a trap. But there's also control. By the way, if you ask my ex-husband, he'll tell you, I'm a control freak. And I was about to lose total control of my life. Fear holds us back. And you better believe I was so scared. And then finally, judgment. I'm guessing a lot of you pass a lot of judgment on yourself, like me. Which then holds us back. And when you can forgive yourself and have a little self-compassion, then you can forgive others. So by the way, the developer in my case didn't even get indicted. Like, I had an ulcer for a while. I was so mad. And eventually I got to the point where I realized, you know what? His karma is his karma. I've got to deal with what's happening in my life. So I forgave him. I've never thought about him again. I have no idea what he's up to. But I let go of it. Because once you let go, that's when you move through it. We don't rise by going, right? We don't rise above by escaping. You don't grow when you just try to move on and sweep everything under the rug, right? Your problems and your franchises are not going to go away if you just keep avoiding them. There's no growth happening in that case. So I was now a number. I was no longer Rashmi. I was 05121-104. And my kids came to visit me. So orange is my brand color only because it is the color of transformation, not because it was orange is the new black. My color in prison was safari green. And I will never wear safari green again. I'm a little traumatized. And the kids would play games with me when they visited me. They would like buy stuff from the vending machine, and all they wanted to do was love on me and hug me and kiss me. Because isn't that what our kids want? They just wanted to know I was safe. So I had this moment where I had spent most of my time in this federal camp near Orlando. And then one day my attorney emailed me and said, hey, there's a prosecutor in Tampa who wants you to testify in a totally separate case, but involving the same client. Eventually, I get transported to county jail, because there's no federal prison in Tampa. And I'm already passing judgment on these women. Now, like, I've already been in prison for 5 months, and now I'm being transported to county jail, again, passing judgment on the people I'm about to go be with. I was like, I don't belong there. I'm an attorney, I'm educated, I come from this great family, I've got these great kids. I don't belong there. Before I even get there, I'm passing judgment on these women. I ended up spending 23 days with these women. And the woman above me was a prostitute heroin dealer. The woman next to me was a homeless person who had been selling drugs. And above her, a 24-year-old meth dealer with a 4-year-old at home. And I cooked, ate, prayed, slept, cried, got them to work out with me. With these women. And I realized, how dare I pass judgment on these women? Because they are just like me. We are all drops from the same ocean, right? We are all human beings, and but for the grace of God, there go I. So one night when we were there, I hadn't left yet. I was there 23 days. It was like the 21st day. We used to watch TV. There were these like metal chairs stuck to the ground and a metal TV in the corner. So we're like in this like TV watching area. And the movie Burlesque comes on. Anybody know this movie? Cher, Christina Aguilera, super fun. eye candy for the guys. So the movie comes on. It's a super fun movie, right? So we're finding joy in prison. And, a little shout out to you guys who are about to create joy after me. So during the movie, we all stand up and we're like dancing and, all this stuff. And eventually, we go back to our little cube and one of the girls says, hey, do you know how to Bollywood dance? I'm like, that's like a trick question, because every Indian person loves to Bollywood dance, am I right? Most of you? So we're not going to do volunteers because we don't have enough time, but I would love all of you to stand up, and we're going to do what I did. I'm going to show you what I did with these women in prison, in county jail. I mean, a lot of you guys are much better dancers than me, I am sure. So one of the girls says, look, I know this song, it's probably not like an authentic Indian song, but if I hum it, do you think you could teach it to us? Okay, no judgment, all you desis out here. Okay, so this song starts playing. Okay, so this is what I did. I said, okay, first put your hands up. You guys get it. Then you rock your shoulders. And then you open and close the light bulb. This is how my dad does it. And then you sway your hips. Right? There you go, a little action for you. Yeah, you guys all want to get into it now. I get it. You guys want to get into it. So a couple days later, all right, I'm glad that was a little fun because I love to dance. So a couple days later, I was sent back to federal prison, and I knew that 2 weeks later, there was a hearing to decide if the judge would give me an early release, because I now had helped in this other case. Now, I didn't know for sure if I was going to get it, but I remember my attorney had said, call me at 10, and I'll know, because the hearing was at 9. So I remember, got up to the payphones that used to be, on one side of the wall, and I call my attorney. There's, all these numbers you got to plug in to be able to call. And he gets on the phone, he goes, you're going home! Yeah, that's how it felt. It felt like I was in a twilight zone. Oh my God, what? I get to go home? I cried. And the next call I made was to my mom. And my mom says, Dad left an hour ago. The true faith that they knew, they just felt it in their souls and trusted the universe. So I said, my kids were supposed to come that night to visit me. They were driving that night to visit me the next day. It was a Friday. I said, Mom, don't tell the kids. I want to surprise them. Right? So this is the video, actual video, of when I walked in and surprised my children. And they didn't let go for a while.
Now you see, did it work,
Because in this moment, when I surprised my kids, right? This is when I started my new life. This is when I realized that I can dare to recreate my life. I can dare to move forward, to rise through anything that I go through. I thought I could avoid the struggle, and clearly, life gave me a massive struggle to deal with. But every time I've shared my story, I realize the power of this. The recognition that when nothing feels right, if we can embrace, let go, and dare, we can rise through it. Right? You, as franchise owners here at Lightbridge, have joined in this incredible culture that I got to experience last night. Congratulations to all the award winners. But your culture of care, your core values of children are why you guys bought a franchise, right? So I'm going to end here. We're going to do a bunch of workshopping. I do have an awesome story at the end to close on, but I want to move on to a workshop. We will have a little bit of time in the end for Q&A, because usually people have lots of questions for me, if you're okay with that, Joanna. Yeah. All right, cool. You guys ready to work a little bit? All right, cool. So there should be paper on all of your tables. Yes? All right. Can I get one? Okay, so I want everyone to first take one of the regular blank pieces of paper, letter-sized paper, and turn it horizontal. So here's the thing. You all have heard my life journey. It's a crazy, tumultuous, exciting journey. And because of this life journey, all of the moments of my life, the ups, the downs, the pains, the joy, all of it, has made me who I am today. Can you guys see that? Like I always tell people, like I was a pretty good person before. I'm a volunteer, I served on all these boards, great mom, but I'm a much better person today for having gone through what I went through. I've learned so much about life, about people, about myself. But often, rarely, not often, do we get to assess our lives because we're busy. We get caught up in the race course of life and try to make our franchises successful. So today, we're going to spend a little bit of time mapping out where we've been. Okay? So on your papers, I apologize, I have to turn my backside to you. Okay, so on your papers, I want you to make an L. Oh, sorry. This is going to go down like that. Can you guys see over here? Okay, then you're going to write joy, and then down here is going to be pain, and here is going to be birth. I'm 53, so I'm going to put 53 here. Okay? And what I'd like for you to do, maybe some of you guys have done this, is I want you to map out your life. I want you to start at birth, obviously, and then think about the moments in your life where you can remember joy or pain. And it could be lots of joy, like I got married, I had kids, I got into blah, blah, blah college. Or it could be like pain, a loved one passes. For me, I got divorced, right? So I want you to like show, I mean, divorce is like good and bad for me, but, so I want you to take some time individually, right? Let's time it. We have till what, 10:30 for all of this, right? Am I right, 10:30? Yes? Okay, so I'm gonna give you about 10 minutes. Please work individually. We're gonna put some music on. I might dance a bit. And really take some time to think about your life. What do you remember gave you joy as a child? What are the things that you've blocked out that caused you pain that you would rather not think about? All right, so music is going to play. Everyone, please just work on your own and think about those moments. And then we're going to do a little sharing. So what I find when I do this exercise is that, and we were just talking about it at Joanna's table, that a lot of times we kind of forget our pain moments. We've done a really good job at like bottling it up. Or maybe we've grown enough to recognize that our pain moments are actually moments that we can recognize now as joy, because they've taught us something, we've learned something, right? Like no one would say on an average day that going to prison is actually something that causes joy. Does that make sense? And so like going through the moments were obviously very painful. Leaving my kids was really painful. But I actually see having gone to prison as one of the best things that happened to me. I don't wish it on anybody, obviously. But what I have learned and what I'm able to now share with others, I would never have been able to do. I would have been a boring attorney. Like, that's not fun. No offense to any attorneys out there. So what I'd love to do is to get a couple of volunteers. I am told that there will be people that will automatically raise their hands and I don't have to call on you, to do some sharing. What is it about your life that you recognize now? What were your joy points? What were your pain points that this exercise helped you recognize? Who wants to be the first volunteer? Yay, I got one right here. What's your name? There's going to be a mic coming to you.
Oh,
Stand up.
I'm Jennifer. I'm from Holly Springs, North Carolina with Becky and Brian.
Thank you so much. You know, give her a round of applause. So I heard a couple of things, which I want all of us to like get from that. The biggest thing I heard is that low point where your dad sends you home, or to North Carolina, to North Carolina. What was a low point, but for that, you would not have stayed and met your husband, and that would not have led you to go into early childhood, and that's basically what has landed you here. The other thing I heard is the culture is not always going to be like the culture is here. at Lightbridge, right? And like, what a gift that you all get to be part of this culture of care and continue growth in your communities, right? With such love and passion for like educating these kids, which is so beautiful. And that's why, you ended up at Lightbridge. So I love that. Thank you so much. So who else wants to share? We're going to go to this side of the room. Right here. You just brought me to tears. Oh my God. That's incredible. I'm listening to both of these stories, and I'm sure we could probably go around the whole room and go through these stories and understand that the journey that brought you to Lightbridge has been up and down, but you got to Lightbridge and have stayed at Lightbridge because of the culture, because of the core values. Like, really, that's why you guys are in this, right? Yes, you're going to make a lot of money. I mean, of course, we want to make money and be profitable, but you're not flipping burgers. Like, you're here to raise the next generation of leaders, right? These are human beings that you're affecting and you're taking in because you love them. But that's amazing to me. Thank you so much for sharing that. Really, that's amazing. Okay, so I would love to say we could have more shares, but we're going to go on to the next. We have like 2 more workshops to do. So I thought what we would do is talk a little bit about accountability, right? So you all heard how I took accountability, right? And taking accountability in our culture, in our society, in our families is not always easy, because it's so much easier to pretend that everything is great or that you haven't made any wrong decisions, right? I had to learn the hard way that I had to take accountability. So I called all these people, right? We told our Indian family friends. But what I wanted to do is each of you at your table, so you all are at tables, I'm going to give you a scenario, and maybe I'd like to take a few minutes for you all to talk through. So I've written them down because I could not memorize these scenarios. Hold on. Okay. All right, so the first scenario is, ready? A teacher in your academy seems disengaged, often looking at their phone during class and not putting in maximum effort. I would like for you to explore, who are you accountable to in this situation? And I understand that there's directors, there's teachers, there's franchise owners, right? Many of you have, you're not all just franchise owners. So each of you in your own, daily work and what you do, think about how you do that, how you would address these questions. So who are you accountable to in this situation? Children, parents, staff, the franchise. How do you address the teacher in a way that is constructive but firm? And what actions would you take if the behavior doesn't improve? Go. A couple minutes. Who are you accountable to? Who would like to talk about what you guys shared in your table? How about this table right here? Who's going to be your spokesperson?
For what?
For the answer to this.
Oh, the scenario.
Okay, Ash, you're going to answer. Ash, who are you accountable to? And what are you going to do about it?
We meet again.
I think we're accountable to parents, teachers, the fellow students. I mean, even though they don't care much, but all the stakeholders. And you pull them into our room or into your office, understand what's really happening, if it's really an emergency or a compassionate situation, yes. But if the behavior happens over and over, you tell them that this is not okay, but if you see it happening over and over, then maybe it's time to have a tough talk and put them on action plan, and if they're still down, then, let them go.
So start with empathy and
Yeah,
EQ,
yeah.
right? Compassion, because
Yeah.
we're all humans. And then, the tough talk.
I mean, there'd be situations, right? Kid
Yeah.
is sick, their kid is
Yeah,
sick,
yeah.
or
I
family.
mean,
or
we're humans,
marital-
life happens.
Yeah, whatever. So if it's a compassionate situation, yeah. But
Is this a common scenario? Is this something that you guys deal with? It is, right? Right.
But
So-
again, I think I don't have my center open yet.
Okay.
I'm just 6 months on
That's
board,
great.
so
This is
I've
good-
never
this is good
dealt
practice
with
for
a
you.
teacher.
You're going to get next level growth because you're going to learn how to do the.
But the reality is that they don't care.
Who?
The teachers, they will be on the phones.
So then what do you do about that?
So, yeah, I mean, it's exactly what you said, but that we have tried multiple times. It just doesn't work. So you have to kind of have that conversations, hard conversations.
Okay, so
over
I have a
and over
question.
again.
How do you make the teachers accountable? How do you get the teachers to hold themselves accountable?
So we keep saying that, like, we tell them that, yeah, means like what we are seeing on the cameras, parents are seeing that too. And I think that brings a little bit of fear, or not fear maybe, but just a little bit of accountability into them, saying, okay, yeah, means parents are seeing that, so they're going to come and question the teachers, like, oh, we saw you on the phone, what's happening? You're not taking care of the kids. So again, it just kind of reinforcing that conversation that, yeah, parents are watching you on the phone, and that has helped to reduce that a little bit, but still that problem is not going to go
Well,
away.
that's like leading by fear,
Yeah.
right? It's not really creating the underpinning self-compassion side of it. Did you want to add something, Elizabeth?
At our center, one of the things that we focused on, it was never really a big thing, but just the integrity of it and getting them to really understand. You know, sometimes they're like, well, what are the core values? You repeat it every day and it becomes something that you don't really see. But I get them to really focus on that honesty. How are you having open-ended conversations with the children? How are you able to communicate with the parents about the milestones their children are meeting if you're on your phone? So you are distracted. So once they started to understand that, and having my lead teachers really enforce it with the assistants, because we don't get to touch those assistants as much as we do the leads, it has helped a lot.
You know, what would be interesting is if you had your teachers do this life journey exercise that you guys just did, to get them to the point, like, why are you here? What got you to the point to be teachers? It can't just be the money. You go get some other job, right? There has to be and we're going to get to this in a second, your why, right? Like, why are these teachers at the centers, right? And so that's something, I mean, you all can take this and go do it with your teams back home if that's helpful, right? Getting them to sit down one day and just be like, map out, how did you get here? Why are you here? That might be a way to get them to buy in a little bit more. Does anybody have anything different that they came up with? Yes.
So when there's a person that's repeatedly seen on the cameras, using their phone, then I bring them in and I let them know, you need to rethink if this is the job for you. That in this job, you're not able to do that. Maybe you're better off working for DoorDash or in sales where you could be on your phone all day long. But in this particular environment, and this is what you signed up for, so I kind of put it back on them and be like, you make the choice. You want to stay here, you got to put it away. And then, unfortunately, there's times where they continue, and then that's where you kind of have to make the decision if you're going to terminate or not, and then there's that whole pick your battles thing. But it's basically staying on top of it. So,
Yeah, it kind of goes back to core values and why are they teachers if they don't want to be teachers, right? Hi.
Hi. I respectfully disagree that all of them don't care. I think these conversations are make or break if they will last through your organization. Of course, it depends on the severity. For us, the way we discussed this was maybe like a light verbal coaching. Maybe it was the first time. The way we discussed is that it was not a repeat offender. So of course, leading with empathy.
No pun intended for me? Okay, got it.
So I really didn't mean to do that.
It's okay.
So I guess it depends on that. Of course, lead with empathy. But again, these are make or break conversations. So bringing it back to the why. Do you understand why it's important not to be on your phone? I don't think you can lead with, we're on the camera as the parents are looking. You signed a cell phone policy. What does that really mean to them, right? How are they going to share in your vision? How are they going to share in your mission? You have to ask them, do you understand why this is jeopardizing your performance? Because then you'll really find out if they care about their performance. And if they don't, if they're up in arms and they walk out, then they probably weren't for you anyway. But if they say, you know what, I'm having a really hard time, and you can have that open dialogue with them, that you can come into the office. It's not jail. We don't want to monitor you. That was not pun intended. I am so sorry. I say that a lot.
It's all good. It's all good.
But to be fair, you didn't have your phone there, right?
I did not have my phone. We had nothing, yeah.
But you can be honest, right? You are a human. We understand it's very difficult in this day and age to be in a job where you can't be on the phone. But if you need to step out, you need to come into the office, you have to have these important conversations, or something's going on based on the conversation, then please know you can do that. And please also understand at the end of the conversation, you cannot do that in the classroom. And this is why. And if you don't agree with that, then we're probably not a fit. And most of the time, I feel that they will understand.
Because to me, it brings me back to your core values here of children. At the end of the day, who are we most accountable to, right? You're here for the children. Yeah. And if the teachers are not in that sharing in the same vision and values, then we either need to get them to understand. Okay, so sadly we don't have enough time to do one more, but I'm going to give them to each of you. I have a bunch of scenarios that I wanted to do. Okay, the last thing we're going to do is I want to get each of you to drill down to what your individual 2 core values are. So we know what Lightbridge's two core values are, children, right? Have any of you, some of you might have done this. Who here knows what their two core values are? Like you've done this exercise. Awesome, I love it. Okay, you're gonna figure it out today. So before we start, really quick, well, as fast as I can write, I'd love for each of you, I'm gonna bring this up so you guys can see it, just start yelling out values right now, and I'm gonna start writing them down, and then we're gonna do a little exercise. Go. Okay, caregiving, I'm gonna tell you what I hear, and yell it out again if I don't write it. Honesty. Care deep, what? Okay, care deeply. We got care twice. Any values? Happiness, kindness, work ethic, role modeling, teamwork. Okay, wait, I got faith, teamwork, empathy. Okay, education, relationships, self-respect. Okay, you cannot judge me on my handwriting. I heard something that I didn't write. I got that. What was it? Serving others. Work-life balance. Yeah. Oh, family, that's kind of important. Family. Accountability. Okay, I love self-care. Self-care. What about like joy, fun? I got happiness up here. Vulnerability. Integrity. Did somebody say philanthropy? Philanthropy? Philanthropy. Oh, my handwriting's getting worse. Okay, communication. Recognition. I think I missed one. Somebody said something. I got philanthropy. Loyalty. Do we have love on here? Love? I mean, don't we all want to be loved? Passion? Yeah, okay, now we're getting there. Laughter. Trust. Fun. I mean, we could go on and on and on, right? All right, so let's just assume that this is it's not an exhaustive list. Maybe you have one in your head that you just didn't yell out because you didn't feel comfortable. So what I want you to do is on your paper, write down your 6 top core values from this list or from that's in your head that you can think of. I'm going to write a few more here that I think are important just to add. Okay, does everyone have their 6? All right, now look at your 6 and cross 2 of them out. I want you to be left with your top 4 core values. I mean, you guys know where we're headed, but let's do it in steps. It doesn't mean that you're crossing them out so you no longer actually are respectful. It just means maybe that's not what every action, decision, behavior hinges on in your life. Sorry, guys, we're going to go 5 minutes over. A little bit over. All right. And then now I want you to take it down to 2. It is hard, right? What does every single thing you do at home, at work, in your communities, every single day, your actions, your decisions, your behaviors, your thoughts, what 2 core values do they hinge on? We never actually take the time to figure this out for ourselves. It's really important. All right, did everyone get their 2 core values? So this is an exercise that you can take these 2 core values, you can add your other 4 back to them, right? But think about how and why you are a Lightbridge franchise owner, right? For a second, I want you all to just close your eyes for a second. Everyone close your eyes. Take yourselves back to your first discovery day. Maybe you've done a few. Those of you that are teachers, remind yourself your first day that you were at a Lightbridge Academy. Your first exposure to Lightbridge Academy. You know what your 2 core values are. You have learned what Lightbridge's children core values are. And you know about the circle of care. Can you tap into that feeling that you had when you first figured out this? This is what I'm going to do. I am all in. It wasn't just the money. Like, yeah, you guys can make good money doing this. But you could have chosen any other franchise to make money. Why are you a Lightbridge franchise owner, right? The theme of this conference is next level growth. And some of you, your next level growth is buying multiple units. Some of you are starting out. Ash is starting out, right? And it's just like, what is that growth going to look like for him? Some of you might be struggling and are like, I want to get to where some of these award winners get to. What does that growth look like? Until we tap into that feeling that brought us here, right? We're going to be held back a little bit. So tap into that feeling and remember why you're here. It's for the kids, right? Isn't it for like the children, the humans that we're sending out into the world? The families that we're touching, the impact we're making in our communities with these children's lives. We are literally helping raise these children with families. Right? That's why we're here. So I want to end with a story. We skipped the slide. So I'm not going to have time to do this, but maybe we'll put this up later. I'd love to get your feedback. I'm always trying to get better, improve my craft. So you can quickly take out your phone and do a QR code. I can send it to you. I can have Joanna send it to you. But it's just a quick little survey. And obviously, you can get in touch with me if you want to. But I want to share because we have to move on. So when my dad was 12, he had just finished reading Gandhi's autobiography. They used to call them autobiographies. Now they're memoirs. So in Gandhi's autobiography, Gandhi shares this really embarrassing moment for the entire world to read about. And on this one particular day, my dad comes home from school. He drinks a quick cup of chai, and my Dadaji says, hey, let's go for a bike ride. By this point, my Dadaji had fallen very ill because of all the times he had been put in jail, and the conditions were so bad. So he sat in this carriage that was attached to my dad's bike, and they go riding around on the dirt roads of Bedi, which is near Rohtak in Haryana, no paved roads. And as they're winding around on this dirt road, they come to a nearby pond. They get off the bike. Dad pulls fruit from the nearby trees. And as he's spending time with his dad, who's now almost about to die, he asks his father, I don't understand. Why would Gandhi write about this really embarrassing, humiliating moment for the entire world to read about forever? He can't take it back. It's been documented. It's in a book. And my Dadaji says, because that's the point, son. When you go through life's hard moments, you have a responsibility to share it so that nobody else will make those same errors, mistakes, judgments. I am living my grandfather's legacy. What will be your legacy? What is your why? How can you leave this conference and achieve next level growth in the way you think, in the compassion that you bring to your teams, in the way you lead, in the way you interact with children and parents in your communities, in the way you market? What will be your legacy? What's one thing you can dare to do today, tomorrow, when you get back to the office on Monday, to move towards this legacy of why you bought or with a Lightbridge franchise. But what will my legacy be? Well, I hope that when my kids are fighting a fight, that they'll think of their great-grandfather, my Dadaji. And I hope when they want to start something new, they think of my parents, their Nani and Nana. But I hope that when my kids make bad decisions or fight a struggle, and they'll want to escape or move on or just push through, I hope that they remember me and embrace, let go, and dare. That's a legacy I can live with. Thank you so much. I'm Rashmi Airan. Thank you. So we're like way over. Do we have like 2 minutes for Q&A? Does anybody have a pressing question? I will stay after if you guys want to ask me. Does anybody have a question they want to ask in front of everybody? Okay, I will, okay.
Just a reflection on your life. I think we owe much of what we do in life to our parents.
Yeah.
The steps they take and the hardships they go through. Have you ever had a chance to reflect what would your life would have been if your father didn't come to this? Have you accessed a successful life?
Yeah. So the question is what would have been my life had my dad not immigrated? Mom and dad not immigrated. I mean, I've never been asked this question. You got like stumped me. So I've often wondered, would I still be in Bedi, which is this, small gaon in Haryana, or maybe we would have moved to Gurgaon, right, which is where some of my my cousins are now. I certainly believe that the same work ethic and mentality and positive mindset, I call it breakthrough mindset because that's like what my parents have taught me. I know that I would have learned that regardless because that's who my parents are. Look, I mean, I think all of us can agree that there's so much more opportunity here, right? And so I don't know, I think I would be the same strong-willed, stubborn woman, but I likely would not have married an American guy, that's for sure. And I would not have had these beautiful children, so. But I think it just would have been very different. One of the things I'll say is that the hardest part about this for me was just that I really thought I had let down my parents, and it was really hard. And now, so first of all, my parents have stood by me every single step. And you guys, I lost everything. Like, I lost my law license, I lost all of my money, the government took all of my IRAs and 401ks, like literally they took everything. And so I was 46 years old, and my parents had to support me. Like, how? And I was like this really successful lawyer. Like, it was so hard. And then when I came out of prison, I ended up getting divorced. And so like I have had this blessing of incredible parents that have stood by me, that when I thought, like I disgraced them, instead they have just stood by me. One of the moments I remember that like literally makes me cry, when I don't know, maybe it was a few years ago, I did a keynote in Austin, Texas, and it was like cowboy theme because it was Texas. And the program, I was the closing keynote, and the program was like a newspaper style, like kind of country. And so like I remember I got to the program, and I opened up the newspaper, and literally there was like a full, like this big size picture of me, which I know outside it's big too, but like, it was like a newspaper. So I remember I brought it home for my dad. I brought home a few copies, and I gave it to my dad one day. So the next, maybe like a few weeks later, I was at his office. I had to do something at the office. He was still practicing law. And I go to his office, and that picture is taped to his door. And I walked in, and he was just finishing meeting with the client. The client walked out of his office, and my dad introduces me to the client, and he says, "Meet Rashmi, my hero." And it's like, I thought I had disgraced, sorry, I'm crying, but like I thought I had disgraced my parents. And here I feel like I know my life has taught my parents so much. I will tell you really quickly that I met amazing women in prison. I made incredible friends, one of which I had a prison mom who like taught me to do a bunch of things. When she used to be an office manager of a law firm. It's a whole story of how she got to prison. But when she got out of prison, which was like, I want to say 6 months after me, We had, of course, exchanged information. She knew my parents were lawyers. She ended up applying for a job with my parents. To this day, she still works for my parents. And I used to call her mom in prison. So there was a moment where my parents ended up working from the house, and so my dad moved his office to the house, and I would walk into my parents' house, and I'd be like, hi, mom, right? Like, it was such a gift, but I know that my dad, but for my experience, would never have even thought about hiring somebody who had been in prison, right? He would have absolutely passed judgment. So, I think, like, our lessons, no matter who's older than us, who's younger, I mean, like, I could go on and on about what the lessons my kids have learned. So, anyway, thank you guys so much.
Feel glorious, glorious. Got a chance to start again. I was born for this.
Rashmi, thank you again. That was wonderful. Definitely saw a few tears throughout those stories, so great job. All right, so if you walked in this morning and you saw the immense amount of materials that are around this room, that is because we are going to all participate after a short break in an amazing effort and an amazing activity with the Spread the Joy organization. So if you are not familiar with this, please understand that Spread the Joy packs boxes of items for children in hospitals around the nation that are unfortunately there for extended stays. So I'm sure you can all imagine the struggles that those children are dealing with. So we're going to take a 15-minute break, and then I'm going to please ask you to return at 11 o'clock, where Audrey is going to give you some more information